A lot of Christians didn't like that idea. A lot of Christians said, Jesus is the truth, the way, the life. But that's not a problem-solving solution. Come on, you think Islam can't solve financial problems? I mean, could you imagine if you went to the store and you bought something and you didn't have to pay taxes at all? Because everything the government needs is covered. This is Tundra Talk. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. In the last video I made, I said that the United States, Europe, and Canada were all going down the tubes, and that Islam was the only solution. Now, I still stand by that, and I posed a challenge to prove me wrong. And by proving me wrong, what I meant was present a challenge, present a problem where Islam doesn't have the solution. Something that involves society, something that involves the human race, any human problem that needs fixing, present that problem and show that Islam can't solve it. Or better yet, I'll show you that Islam can, inshallah. A lot of Christians didn't like that idea. A lot of Christians said, Jesus is the truth, the way, the life. But that's not a problem-solving solution. Generally, it's good to have moral values. It's good to, not stand for what's going on that's bad in the West or in the world. But there's no systematic way to do that in Christianity. But we'll get into that in another episode. I don't want to get into Christianity now. What I do want to focus on is that one guy said something along the lines of, I will accept Islam if Islam can give me a six-figure job. Along the lines of something like that. So basically he needs a six-figure job. That's what he needs. He doesn't need religion. Well, okay. And then there were other comments saying that, what problems can Islam solve? Financial problems, emotional problems, health problems. So that was another comment. And frankly, yeah, Islam can solve those. But I'm going to focus today on the financial problems. First part of that guy's question was, we don't need religion, let me choose my own thing. And that was the whole point of my last video. You can go back and watch my last video and see why that's a problem. But I think we need to establish one thing. Choosing the lesser of two evils is not a good choice. Capitalism over socialism is not a good option because they're both very, very bad. And what I'm saying is that Islam actually has a better economic system where, if implemented, all of society's economic problems would be solved. Now, for the guy that said he needs a six-figure job, all right. The question is, now, obviously, if you become a Muslim, you don't automatically get a six-figure job. There's nothing like that in Islam, right? So how does it solve my problem? The question is, what is the root of the problem? If you had a six-figure job right now, would that solve the problem? Or would that just be a way to get rid of the symptoms? When we get sick, a doctor is supposed to diagnose the disease and cure the disease. But when they don't have a cure for the disease, they'll give you something to reduce the symptoms. You get sick, you get a virus. They can't kill the virus. What they can do is give you something to make your headache go away. But it doesn't kill the virus. The virus is still there. Getting a six-figure job when the economy requires that you have a six-figure job doesn't cure the problem. I mean, what happens if you get the job and then you're in the hospital for 2 months? Well, that's 2 months you're not getting paid, so that's medicine you're not getting. And the symptoms just come back, so you're still going to be in debt. And then you're going to be even more in debt because you were in the hospital. Hospital bills we'll talk about later. The issue is the economic system. Why do you need a six-figure job? Let's start by talking about the distribution of wealth. Now, I'm not talking socialism here, because socialism has a lot of problems too. Socialism has failed already, we've seen it. All right, and when The Soviet Union collapsed on itself. That's what happened, and that's what's going to happen in the U.S. eventually, for one reason or another. That's what I'm saying. It's time that we realize that Islam is the only solution. Now the question is, what does the government do? The government relieves itself from its duty, which is taking care of its citizens, by giving wealth to private companies. The United States has natural resources, all right? It's got plenty. The government allows natural resources to be owned by private companies. Well, why shouldn't they? No, the question is, why should they? They're natural resources. The resources in that country should be distributed among the rest of the population. Oh, but what about the workers and the companies that actually, provide the machinery and provide the... Well, yeah, they should get paid by the government. Wait, that's socialism. No, it's not. Because you're allowed to own things. You're allowed to become rich, own a business, do something, but don't take natural resources. Now, how does Islam fix the problem? If the government took advantage of those natural resources, and I'm talking about all natural resources in the country, then that wealth that's created, the goods being sold to other countries, and the profits being made when you're selling to other countries, that wealth would be distributed to its people. It would come back in the form of schools. It would come back in the form of health insurance. It would come back in the form of roads. Anything you needed to pay taxes for, you'd be making money from natural resources. That is something that Islam doesn't allow a private company to own. The Prophet Muhammad ﷺ says, "An-nas shuraka'u fi thalath, al-ma' wal-kala' wal-nar," which means people are partners in three things: water, grazing pasture, and fire. Anything among those three must be distributed among all the people that fall under that government system. So in the Islamic government system, in the Khilafah, it would belong to everyone living inside the Muslim nation, Muslim or non-Muslim. That's one of the biggest things when it comes to economy. Now, do your own calculation. You can Google it. Search how much oil is produced by the United States. All right? Then look up natural resources in the United States. Then see how much money is being made from those natural resources. Divide that wealth on the number of people living in the United States and see how much difference that would make. Instead of a small group of people owning all the natural resources in the United States, imagine if the government owned it and just took that money and used it instead of taxes. Again, the claim is Islam is the only solution, and until people wake up and realize that, until people get up and say, I want Islam to govern society, these problems will only get bigger. So settling for the lesser of two evils is not a good solution. Saying I'm okay with capitalism and let big companies own our natural resources. They belong to the people. That's how it's supposed to be. If this is our country and our country is producing something for us, why should a few have control over it at all? I mean, we talk about taxing these companies. See, the solution isn't to tax those companies. The problem is that that wealth is stolen by the few from the majority. It belongs to everyone. I mean, think about it. If you live in a country, it is an area of earth, and that earth is providing you with natural resources. Shouldn't everybody that owns that earth get those natural resources and the benefit from them? Yes. Obviously, yes. So why are the collective few allowed to take those natural resources for themselves? And then we bicker over how much we should tax them. See the problem? Islam solves the problem from the root. Those natural resources belong to everyone. Therefore, whoever is in charge and responsible for providing and taking care of everyone is the one who gets to distribute it. Hence, the government. Now, in your mind, you're thinking, well, hold on a second. I don't like the idea of government controlling the wealth. You'd rather have greedy private companies controlling the wealth? Supposedly the government is elected, right? But that's another problem. All right? And Islam solves all of them. Islam solves all of these problems. That's the whole point. Anyway, I hope that people start to wake up. They start to realize, just look into this. Just think about it. Does this make sense? Does Islam really have solutions for all these problems? Can Islam really fix our financial problems? Can Islam really fix our emotional problems? Can Islam really fix our health problems? Before you say no, before you say those problems will always exist, before you say that, look into it. Check, because I'm telling you it can. And God willing, it will. All it takes is for people to understand, to open their eyes and look beyond the horizon just a little bit to see that there's so much more and so much better than what we've settled for. Settling for the lesser of two evils is not good. It is evil. Islam solves the problem from the root, practically, realistically, and justly. Anyway, this is Tundra Talk.